Not a lot of people know this about Jim Carrey, but before he became one of the most famous comedic actors of all time, he had a very rough start in life. In his early years at school, Jim was very quiet and had no friends. He discovered that he could make friends by making people laugh. The results weren't always positive, though. He would get into trouble for disrupting the class by his teachers numerous times. Despite the fact that he could make other people laugh, Jim had a learning disability called dyslexia. It made it very difficult for him to succeed in school. To work around this disability, he developed a phenomenal memory. Having money was another hurdle. His family lived in the rough part of town with lots of low-rent townhouses. By the 10th grade, he was working 8-hour night shifts at a factory with his family, along with going to school during the day. He was so exhausted from working that he couldn't focus on his schoolwork. He was also embarrassed about being poor and having no friends. With little learning and no relationships, he decided to drop out of school at the age of 16. His family decided that their surroundings were taking them in the wrong direction, so they packed up and moved with no job in sight. His parents and 2 siblings lived in a beat-up Volkswagen camper for 8 months, parking in various campgrounds. Eventually, the Carrey family got back on its feet, and they moved to Toronto. Through all of these hard times, Jim's father, Percy, always supported Jim's desire of wanting to be a comedian. Percy got him in at a comedy club in Toronto called Yuck Yucks. His first time on stage was an absolute disaster. Jim went home and kept practicing his celebrity impressions and started to perfect his act. In 1979, at the age of 17, Jim decided to move out to Hollywood. He started performing at the Comedy Store. Comic legend Rodney Dangerfield was so impressed by Jim that he made him an opening act for an entire year. Throughout the 80s, Jim performed at many clubs and had a few minor roles in movies. He was still struggling financially, though, and wasn't content with the way things were going. In 1990, Jim had landed a role on a new series on the Fox network called In Living Color. He was still struggling financially at that point, though. He decided to take a drive in his old Toyota up to Mulholland Drive one night. While sitting there looking at the city of LA below and dreaming of his future, he wrote himself a check for $10 million, dated it Thanksgiving 1995, and carried it in his wallet from that day forth. The rest, as they say, is history. By 1995, he had huge box office success from movies like Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber. At that point, he was making $20 million per picture. When his father, Percy, died in 1994, Jim placed that $10 million check that he wrote to himself 4 years earlier into his father's coffin as a tribute to the man who had both started and nurtured his dreams of being a star.